the Food Yogi. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much.
Can you please explain food yoga?
Well, food yoga, first of all, understand the basic idea of food yoga is to understand the word yoga. And yoga, of course, comes from the Sanskrit word yuj, and yuj technically means to unite or connect. So food yoga, therefore, is a way of life where you use food to connect mind, body, spirit, and also ultimately to connect with God. So it's like the ultimate form of yoga. Food being the most basic thing that we all do, it's the most basic necessity of life. So I believe very strongly, and this is sort of backed up by the charity work that I do, that food yoga is a way to not only to connect with God, but to create real unity in the world. Food yoga is an art, and it is a science. Just like with cooking, right? When you cook, you always want to add your signature note. You want to do your little special combination of spices, your special little technique. So it's an art form. You add your creative spirit to it, but it's also a science because there's certain principles which can't be broken. Certain things don't go together, certain things do go together. So you follow some sort of scientific, some sort of logic there. So similarly, food yoga is an art and a science. It's an art because it is a way that we can creatively express ourselves through food, using food as a medium to express our love and gratitude for some other person, our unconditional love for someone. And it is a science because it can help us to see the sort of energetic connections that we all have, how we're all related, how energy is flowing in and around us, how food essentially really is energy. It's not just rice and bread and curry and potatoes and so on, but it's also an energy form. And therefore to see that energetic connection, to see how food is carrying energies, for example, thoughts and things like that are invested in the food, to understand how the life cycle of food, how it's coming from seed and it's cultivated and harvested and processed in so many ways or handled in so many ways and eventually comes to our plate. So to understand all those energetic interconnections, those influences that food goes through, so that is important that's an important part of the food yoga process, to see more deeply, to see food beyond the simple gratification of the tongue and see it, the more interconnections, the interdependence that it has with us.
From what I understand, we've known each other for well over 25 years. And so you started practicing bhakti yoga, which is strictly vegetarian, no garlic, no onions, no fish, chicken, meat or eggs, etc. And in your journey, you've changed the content perhaps that you eat, or you eat food in a slightly different way, which is obviously you've thought about it a lot, you've investigated it a lot, but it's not that you're promoting vegan, you're promoting good, healthy eating. Please explain.
Well, yeah, when I first became a monk at the age of 19, first of all, vegetarianism was a whole new experience for me. I wasn't a vegetarian at birth. I first experimented with vegetarianism at the age of 16, but because of the influences of that time, I didn't really last very long. But at the age of 19, I gave it another go, and then very soon after, I decided to become a monk. As a monk, you don't have too much choice of what you eat. You basically eat what you're given. But the temple food was fantastic. And it was classic Indian vegetarian food. And I became very accustomed to that, and it was very satisfying. But after a little bit of time, I started to realize how this sort of diet didn't really suit me perfectly. And
Didn't feel 100% comfortable.
Didn't feel 100% comfortable. And the more I sort of investigated this and how food impacts our body and mind and so on, especially as a celibate monk, I realized certain foods agitated my mind. And of course this is why we don't have garlic and onions and things like that, because those foods do agitate you. They do agitate the senses and disturb the mind. So I understood through research and experience that it wasn't just onion and garlic, but just combinations of food or how much food or how much cooked food you eat, it tends to affect you. Your body, your mind will be affected by how your body's functioning, what food's in your system, and how it's being digested. It does affect your mind. So I realized that a more conducive diet, especially for meditation and for a peaceful mind, is to eat closer to nature, the way nature intended. You can interpret that as raw food. And the further I investigated, I realized, hey, you know what? Even the great sages of yore, even literally the compiler of the Vedas, Vyasadeva was a raw foodist. He's living in the forest, renounced sage, and eating fruits and berries. He certainly wasn't cooking chapatis. And so even the foundation, so to speak, of that Vedic culture, that Vedic knowledge, is raw food. So, and I had practical experience. The more I started incorporating just eating food in its natural state, the better I felt. Now, at a certain point in time, this is after I stopped being a monk and I went, lived independently. I experimented with this concept, and I literally went 100% raw when I was living in New York. And I found that it was good in many ways, but it was not perfect. And then I realized, well, there's nothing absolute in this world, and that according to your body, you need to adjust your diet accordingly. And one example of this is, many people have heard of the blood type diet. Now, according to the blood type diet, I should be a carnivore because I'm an O+. Now, I've been a vegetarian for 30 years. So what that says clearly is that philosophy is not absolute. It's a good theory, and yes, it probably works for a lot of people, but it's not absolute. And there's nothing absolute in this world. Everything's relative. And everything really, whatever decisions you make, should be based on time, place, and circumstance. That means you need to tune into your body, start listening to your body, start seeing how it's responding to certain situations, and become more sensitive, and then respond accordingly. Adjust your behavior accordingly. So the 100% raw food diet was really good, but it wasn't perfect. And now I've gotten to a point where I'm sort of like 80-20, where I'm 80% raw, 20% cooked food, and I find that's a really good number for me. So when I teach my students, food yoga students, I tell them, look, start off at a point of 51% raw. That's a good starting point. And then find the magic number that's right for you, based on your constitution. Some people have more fire in their body, some people have more earth in their body, and you'll only understand that by tuning into how your body responds to certain situations.